The house always smelled like cinnamon vanilla. That was Julia's signature. She baked on Sundays, cleaned every morning, and kissed her husband on the lips every single night before bed, without fail for 10 years. To outsiders, Julia and Daniel were the dream couple. Their laughter echoed through dinner parties. They finished each other's sentences. Their Instagram posts looked like something out of a movie. Couple goals, they called them. Two beautiful kids, a gorgeous home, vacations twice a year, matching pajamas every Christmas. People envied her life. Even Julia sometimes envied herself because it felt too good to be true. But then again, she was a firm believer in gratitude. Maybe, just maybe, she got lucky. She met Daniel at 26. He was charming, mysterious in a soft spoken way, and deeply attentive. He remembered tiny details, her favorite drink, the book she never finished, the way she hated loud ticking clocks. Within 2 years, they were married. It was the kind of whirlwind romance that had her friends joking. This only happens in movies, but they weren't wrong. Julia was living a movie, or so she thought. There were whispers of curse, a strange phone call here, and an unexplained weekend there. But Daniel always had answers, clear, precise, and delivered with so much calm. You would feel ridiculous for even asking. Julia learned to silence her intuition. She had a family now. Doubt didn't fit into the story she had built. And truthfully, she wanted to believe. She needed to believe. So she carried on. 10 years passed like chapters in diary. School runs, birthday cakes, gentle lovemaking on rainy nights. She memorized the caresses at the corner of his eyes, the way he smiled, deepened when he was truly happy. But the crack came slowly, like a whisper crawling into her dreams. It began the day she found the letter. Daniel had gone on a trip, work, he said, 2 days mass, but on the second night, while looking for his charger in the study drawer, Julia found an envelope with no name, just a date, 10 years ago, the day before their wedding. Her heart didn't race, not yet, but her fingers trembled. She opened it. It wasn't long, just a few lines in a woman's handwriting. Daniel, I'm sorry you're doing this. I never imagined it would come to this. But if you go through with it, just know that someday the truth will come for you. I loved you. Still do. Arrow. Julia's mind went blank. Arrow. Who is Arrow? She checked the back, nothing. The envelope was worn, faded, but this wasn't forgotten. Letter from a stranger. It was hidden, tucked under folders, carefully placed. Daniel had kept it for 10 years. She folded it back and sat on the study chair, staring at the wall. Her breath quickened. Her chest tightened. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a stage, a set, and she didn't know the script. Julia tried to dismiss it. Maybe it was from an old flame. Maybe he had cold feet during the wedding and she called him out of it. That happened in movies, right? But the next morning, a single thought echoed in her mind. What truths? That question would become a slow burning fire in her soul. And nothing could have prepared her for the answer. Julia couldn't sleep. She placed the letter back exactly where she found it, but it no longer mattered. Something in her had shifted. The woman who trusted without question, who built her world on blind belief, she was gone. In her place was a woman with questions, too many. That morning, Daniel returned. He kissed her cheek like always, held her waist as she made breakfast, asked how the kids were. Everything felt the same, yet eerily different. like watching someone wear your husband's skin. Her fingers itched to bring up the letter. Instead, she asked a simple question as he buttered his toast. So, anyone from your past ever tried to stop our wedding? Daniel paused. Just a second. But Julia noticed. He smiled, calm and casual. You're watching too many movies, he chuckled, sipping his coffee. She smiled back, but her heart screamed. Over the next few days, Julia became a silent detective in her own home. She went through old photos, receipts, email threads, even her wedding video, looking for a clue, anything. And one night, deep in an old hard drive folder labeled Work Docs, she found a photo. Daniel, arm around a woman with honey blonde curls, smiling. On the back of the printed copy it said, Rome, April, forever yours, R. R. Her chest caved in. She scanned the room again, noticed a necklace she once found in their drawer, delicate gold with the letter R on it. He had told her it belonged to his late aunt. She laughed bitterly into the silence. Lies had been folded into her marriage like sugar in tea. Sweet, invisible, undetectable. But now she could taste it and it was bitter. Julia didn't confront him right away. No, she needed to know who this woman was, why she mattered, what truth was so terrifying it stayed buried for a decade. So she did what she never thought she would do. She followed him. It started with harmless curiosity. He left every Thursday night for gym time. But that Thursday, she followed from a distance, keeping her headlights low. He didn't go to any gym. He drove across town to a quiet cul-de-sac and parked outside a cream-colored house. He walked in, no hesitation, like he belonged there. Julia sat in her car for nearly an hour before he came out. He wasn't alone. The same woman from the picture walked him to the door. Blonde curls, soft eyes. She hugged him, not just a friendly hug, not a polite goodbye, no, this was deeper. Her hand lingered on his chest. His head leaned into hers, and when she whispered something, Daniel closed his eyes like it was the only truth he trusted. Julia's fingers gripped the steering wheel so hard her knuckles turned white. He didn't kiss the woman, but he didn't have to. She could feel everything just watching them. That night, she couldn't speak, couldn't cry. She cooked dinner, helped the kids with homework, and crawled into bed beside the man who kissed someone else's soul. At 3 a.m., Daniel stared beside her. Can't sleep, he whispered. Julia stared at the ceiling. No, she said. Wanna talk about it? She turned her head slowly toward him. His face looked soft in the moonlight, familiar, kind. But monsters don't always have fangs. Daniel, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Who is Aro? Silence. His face froze. He didn't blink. Then he sat up slowly, like a man preparing for battle. How? How do you know that name? Her eyes burned. You kept a letter, hidden for 10 years, and I saw you with her. Daniel ran a hand down his face, and that was the moment Julia knew. The truth wasn't just going to hurt, it was going to break her. Daniel didn't speak right away. He sat at the edge of the bed, his shoulders hunched like a man who had carried too many secrets for too long. The silence between them grew heavier, so thick it could suffocate. Julia's hands trembled under the sheets, but she didn't speak. She wanted him to talk, to unravel this lie that had lived in the walls of their marriage. Finally, he exhaled. I didn't want it to come out like this, he said, voice hoarse. Julia said nothing. I was going to tell you. I planned to. So many times, but then life kept moving and I kept choosing not to. Her voice came out sharp, bitter. You kept choosing to lie. Daniel nodded slowly as if accepting a sentence. Her name is Rebecca. Rebecca? The name cut through Julius like a blade. A real name made the pain more solid, more real. She was my fiancée before you. Julia blinked. Before me? Yes. We were together for 5 years. I was going to marry her. A strange, dizzy feeling began to spread through Julia's chest, but I never knew about her. That's because the engagement ended a month before I met you. Her heart quickened. Why didn't it end? Or why did it end? Daniel didn't answer right away. He stood up, paced a little, then he turned to her. She found out something about me, something I wasn't proud of. Julia's stomach turned. Was it Daniel? He looked at her with tired, bloodshot eyes. That I had gotten another woman pregnant. Ha! The word tilted. Julia sat up straight. You what? Daniel sighed. It happened during a rough patch with Rebecca. We were on a break. I slept with someone else. She got pregnant. Rebecca found that she was devastated. She left. Julia stared at him, lips parted, breath short. And the child? She asked. He looked down. She lost the baby a few months later, miscarriage. I never even met the woman again, but the damage was done. So you ran from it, Julia said, her voice shaking. I met you 3 weeks later. You were this bright light, Julia. You didn't ask questions. You didn't judge. You smiled like I was the best man in the world, and I wanted to be. I needed a fresh start. And Rebecca, she whispered. She came to my office the day before our wedding. She didn't beg. She didn't shout. She just said one thing. If you marry her without telling the truth, you will never have peace. Then she left that later. And you married me anyway. Yes. Julia felt like the room was closing in. You married me. With her words in your pocket and lies in your mouth. I loved you, he said. I still do. Tears streamed down Julia's cheeks. No, you loved the idea of me. The clean slate. The woman who didn't know you were damaged goods. Daniel winced. That's not fair. What's not fair is that I built my life on lies. She snapped. I thought I knew the man I shared a bed with. I defended you. I doubted my own instinct for you. He stepped closer. I never cheated on you, Julia. Never, not once. But you emotionally cheated. You lied. You kept Rebecca. You kept her in your life. Why? Daniel hesitated, then said, because she never really stopped loving me, and I guess a part of me didn't stop loving her either. It was a punch to the chest. Julia gasped, then stood up, backing away like the man in front of her was a stranger. So what am I, Daniel? She whispered. A replacement, a bandage. He closed his eyes. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and the most undeserved. She didn't answer, couldn't. The world she knew, the marriage, the home, the children's bedtime stories, it all felt like paper soaked in water. soggy, fragile, on the verge of tearing. I need space, Julia said. Where will you go? I don't know, but I can't stay here tonight, not with you. Daniel reached for her hand, but she pulled away, and the first time in 10 years, they slept in separate places, he on the couch, she in the guest room. And as Julia lay there, staring at the ceiling, she asked herself the question no woman ever wants to ask after a decade of love. Was it even real? Was it real? The days that followed felt like a slow, painful unraveling. Julia moved through the house like a ghost. She cooked, cleaned, and cared for the kids like she always had. But there was a weight in her chest that refused to lift. Daniel gave her space. He tiptoed around her, guilt written in every step he took. But his silence only made it worse. She wanted him to fight, to scream, to beg. But he didn't, because deep down he knew the truth had detonated a bomb they might never recover from. On the fourth day, Julia packed a weekend bag. Daniel stood at the door, arms folded, eyes sunken. Where are you going? To my sister's, she replied, avoiding his gaze. He nodded. Can I call you? I don't know, she said. Right now, I can't be in this house. He stepped forward. Julia, please, I know I made a mistake, but I never stopped loving you. She finally looked at him. Really? And what she saw shattered her, because she still loved him too, but love doesn't always survive. Betrayal. Sometimes love is the thing that hurts the most. At her sister's Megan's house, Julia tried to pretend she was okay. She laughed with her nieces, helped make dinner, watched mindless TV, but her mind never rested. It kept replaying Daniel's words. A part of me didn't stop loving her. 10 years of marriage, and she was never enough to make him forget Rebecca. On Saturday night, Megan finally sat her down. I don't want to overstep, Megan began carefully, but do you think this marriage is something you want to save? Julia was quiet for a long time. I don't know, she whispered. I just keep thinking, if he lied about something that big, what else don't I know? Megan squeezed her hand. Only you can decide what is forgivable. Julia nodded, tears forming again. Did he ever stop seeing her? Megan asked gently. That question twisted like a knife. Julia hadn't asked him that. She assumed the Thursday visits were recent. But what if they weren't? What if Rebecca had always been there in the background of their entire marriage? When Julia returned home on Sunday night, the house was quiet. The kids were already in bed. Daniel was in the kitchen alone, nursing a glass of wine. She didn't say a word. She dropped her bag and walked straight to him. I need to ask you something, she said firmly. He looked up, cautiously, hopeful. Anything. How long have you been seeing her? He didn't flinch, didn't lie. 3 years. Julia stepped back, hands covering her mouth. 3 years? 3. Daniel stood. It wasn't an affair, Julia. I didn't sleep with her. We talked. Once in a while, she needed someone, and I chose her over and over again. She interrupted, her voice rising. You made her your emotional home while I was raising your kids and keeping our life together. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. Her voice cracked. Daniel looked broken. I didn't want to lose her completely, and I didn't know how to tell you. I was afraid that if I did, I would lose you too. Julia laughed bitterly. Do you choose to lose me slowly? She turned away, but his voice stopped her. I ended it with her. The day you found the letter, I knew it was time. She spun around, and I'm supposed to what? Applaud you, say thank you finally doing the bare minimum after 10 years of lies. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, Daniel said, voice shaking. But if there is any chance at all to make this right, I'll do anything. Silence settled like dust in the room. Julia stared at him, eyes full of pain. I gave you the best years of my life, Daniel, and you spent them hiding parts of yourself from me. I know. I loved you with everything in me. I know. She took a shaky breath. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I'll wait, however long it takes. I'll wait. That night, they didn't sleep in the same bed, and in the quiet dark of the guest room, Julia asked herself one question again and again. What do you do when love isn't enough to build a future anymore? She didn't answer the question, but she knew that by morning a decision had to be made because silence wasn't healing her anymore. It was drowning her. The morning sun broke through the blinds like an unwanted guest. Julia sat up in the guest room, fully dressed. She hadn't slept. Her mind had traveled through every memory, every laugh, every kiss, every silent moment, where she now wondered if Rebecca was the back of his mind, or was the back of his mind, or was in the back of his mind. 10 years. 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of loyalty, 10 years of building a life with a man who had loved another woman in secret. Now, everything rested on one choice, stay or walk away. She walked into the kitchen. Daniel was already there, packing the kids' lunch boxes. He looked exhausted, like a man living on the edge of hope. He glanced up. Hey, she nodded. Let's talk. They sat at the dining table, the same one where they would celebrate anniversaries, birthdays, and quiet Wednesday nights, eating burnt spaghetti and laughing about it. But today there was no laughter, only the weight of finality. Julia folded her hands, voice low but steady. I spent the whole night thinking, and I need you to hear this without interrupting. Daniel nodded. She continued, I believed in us. I believed in our marriage. I believe you were honest. Even when you weren't perfect, I built my world around that belief. I know, he whispered. But that word broke the moment I realized I didn't really know the man I married. Daniel looked down. He didn't defend himself. He let her speak. You loved me, I know that. But you loved her too. And while I was busy being a wife, a mother, and your biggest cheerleader, you were still tethered to someone else. She paused. I asked myself over and over, can I stay? Can I rebuild? Can I forgive? Her eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. And the truth is, maybe I could forgive, but I will never forget. I'll always wonder if you were still thinking about her, if the Thursdays would come back, if I would ever be enough. Daniel's voice cracked. You are enough, you always were. But I don't feel like it anymore, she said quietly. I don't know if I can ever feel safe in this love again. Silence. I don't want our kids to grow up in a house where love is just survival, where trust is a battle. I want them to see a woman who knows when to fight for something and when to let go with grace. He reached for her hand, but she gently pulled away. I'm leaving, she said. I'm not doing this out of hate. I'm doing it because I love myself enough to walk away from what hurts. Daniel's lips quivered. Is there any chance someday? I don't know, but what the future holds, and I don't know what the future holds. she said honestly. But I know that right now this chapter has to end. 3 months later, Julia moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. The kids stayed with her during the weekend, and Daniel had them during the weeks. The first few weeks were hard, tears behind closed doors, long nights of wondering if she made the right choice. But then something shifts, and then something shifted. She started sleeping better. She smiled more. She began writing again, something she hadn't done in years. She took herself out for dinner. She joined a yoga class. She laughed, real laughter, not the kind you fake just to keep the peace. And slowly the weight of her chest and the weight on her chest began to lift. Daniel still tested her sometimes about the kids or show they used to watch. He apologized again and again. He asked if she was okay. He didn't beg her to come back. He knew he had lost something sacred. 1 year later, Julia stood on a stage accepting an award for her memoir, The Woman Who Chose Herself. The crowd applauded as she spoke into the microphone. I thought the end of my marriage would be the end of me, but what I learned is that sometimes endings are just the beginning of something more honest, more free, more you. She scanned the crowd. Daniel was there in the back row alone. He smiled at her. She smiled back. And in that moment, she knew she had made the right choice. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she finally started loving herself more. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, comment, and like.